everyone. My name is Jasmine, and I'm a fourth year CAS B computational systems biology major and neuroscience minor. And my mentor for the IRI project is Dr. Timberlake. And I'm just going to accept it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, it's okay. So this is my quad chart, and basically my topic is classifying state of concentration through electroencephalogram data, EEG data, and my new idea is basically I want to find new EEG metrics for different types of sustained attention and at different levels of difficulty. And my process right now is that I am conducting psychophysical experiments while collecting EEG data and also doing signal processing and deep learning models so that I can actually do the classification. And my results are, I would agree that this is like an ongoing process, is that I've collected 45 sets of data from 45 participants, and I've come to an initial conclusion that theta waves are indicative of internally directed sustained attention, and I'm also in the process of continuing cleaning processing the models. So EEG, what is it? It's short for electroencephalogram, and it measures voltage changes in brain activity from collective neurons near the skull, and it's used widely in different kinds of research. For example, motor movement decoding, in predicting epilepsy, and also in enhancing cognitive performance, which is what I'm mainly interested in. And mostly the commercial EEG on the market right now are in headset form, and what they can do is to detect and analyze different EEG metrics. Some can be brain waves, which are oscillating electrical voltages. You might have heard of alpha, beta, gamma, theta, delta waves. And there are also event-related potentials, which are inflections or deflections of membrane potential after an event has occurred. And usually they will provide feedback on the current mental state as a number quantitatively, and it would indicate if you're aware, you're concentrated, or you're calm. And in my case, I'm interested in concentration, so that's what I focus my project on. And so basically, the very ambitious question that I asked myself after getting into reading some of the papers is that can we achieve better accuracy, precision, and specificity in classifying concentration? For example, if we're doing a task and we move on to another task, can we tell if that happened just based on EEG alone? Or can we tell if we're doing different types of mental activity, for example, math problems or reading text, and how can we distinguish between these types of concentration? So this project basically tries to understand the changes in concentration level on a more micro level so that we can perform daily tasks with a single headset and user interface. But that is very ambitious. And so basically the gap or the problem is that based on the current not so rigorous research experiments and papers in the field, there is a lack of precise EEG metrics that are indicative of concentration. And so there is no strict consensus on which EEG metrics correspond to which type of concentration. And there are also issues such as the inability of EEG data to generalize to to a general population. They're very specific to the individual, and these are all problems in EEG concentration research. And going on, I want to narrow down the focus of concentration, what I mean by it. So from now on, I'll refer to it as sustained attention, which is a type of attention, and it's basically focusing on a person, task, or activity for a certain amount of time or until the relevant task is completed. And so the exploratory goals I have for the project, basically, there are three. The first was collecting human electroencephalogram data when they perform attention-demanding tasks. And second is extracting EEG features, such as brainwave and event-related potentials, related to different types and intensities of sustained attention. And third, this is in the future, but I want to build a deep learning network or model to classify two types of and several intensities of concentration, which I'll mention later. And my current progress throughout the year is summarized here. So the slides, I have not updated them yet, but it should say I've completed the IRB. And before that, I've done a lot of literature review and honing down on the research problem and writing the research proposal, and also designing and implementing the psychophysical experiment and collecting data. And I'm in the process of processing these data that I've collected and building a model. So I know some of you might be doing the IRB for next year, I've been told. So yeah, I was told to like do a short slide of what the IRB is and how you do it. So basically, the IRB is required if you want to do experiment on humans. So first you need to determine if you need an IRB, and if you do, then first you need to obtain the login credentials from the PI or mentor. You need to apply through the WebRB website. Let's say here it's affiliated with, well, it's under UCLA, and you have to describe your study, your participant pool, your recruitment method, your payment method, and all of the other important information related to human research. And then you need to submit and reply to the comments. And this will probably take about 1 to 2 months. So if you're interested, you can email me and I can give you some guidance. So moving on to the experiment design. Since I mentioned that I want to look at different types of concentration and the intensity of the task, I'm manipulating these 2 variables. So the first variable, the type of sustained attention. So we have 2 tasks, the sustained attention to response task and the reading task. SART is, it looks at externally directed sustained attention, meaning you're directing your attention towards the outside stimuli. And reading task is more of looking at the internally directed attention. So you can think of it as you're going through your own mental process. And the SART task basically is also manipulated with 3 different levels of difficulty. So here I'm showing the most difficult one. It's called the zero back, and basically it's a press. It's a go, no-go task. If you see the target word, then you don't press, and if you see non-target words, then you press. And this is the 1 back for the SART. If you see a non-target word, if you see a target word, you press, but for the next word, you don't press. That's called 1 back. And for the 2 back, basically, you're not pressing when it's the second word after the target word. And the reading task, how I'm going to manipulate the difficulty of the task, was basically showing the 300-word text for a certain duration, from 1 minute, 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. And after reading the text, they're going to answer 4 multiple choice questions. And what I'm trying to achieve with experiment design is basically to get their behavioral data so I can tell how much they're concentrating at a certain time point based on their performance. And this is my experiment setup. So I bought a OpenBCI 16 channel headset using the prize money, which is cool. And I've also downloaded the OpenBCI GUI, and this on the right is a screenshot or a picture of my experiment. And so yeah, I'm in the process of data processing, which can be split into 3 parts. First is cleaning the data, so I'm going to visualize the data and then synchronizing the data, filtering and rearranging them. And also signal processing, which some of you might be familiar with. I personally am a very rudimentary apprentice in this field, but I use for a fast-forwarding transform, power spectral density, and also extracting frequency ranges to look at alpha through gamma frequencies. And in future, I want to build a deep learning model. So this is like a screenshot of my data processing for the cleaning part. This, you can see, is raw EEG data for a certain participant. And I've basically shown the raw EEG traces for the SART 0 back, 1 back, and 2 back tasks. And the X label will be time, and the Y label is the memory potential. And this is how I filtered the data using a Butterworth bandpass filter, so that it would like get rid of the noise, for example, from your eye movement or from the electrical socket. And this is after I fast-forwarded transformed the data so that I turn the time domain data into frequency domain data so that I can carry on with extracting alpha, beta, gamma data, and delta waves. So here are some very preliminary results. One thing that I learned is that I have to make sure the data is very well organized before I start collecting data, because that the actual cleaning of the data took a lot of time. So here I have 10 participants' average data, and I'm sorry the words are very small, but it will be alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and zeta, and the Y labels are the average intensities. So for the SART, unfortunately, I don't see anything significant between rest and the SART blocks. So as you can see here, it's kind of messy and there is no significance. But there are small fluctuations in the intensity in theta, alpha, and delta waves. And for the results for the reading task, it is a little more significant. So it's also the same number of participants average. And we can see an increase in theta and alpha intensities in the first reading block compared to the rest activity, which is the blue block. And there are lower theta and alpha intensities in the second and third blocks. As you can see, there is a drop in the intensities of alphas and thetas here. So I speculate that this could be due to fatigue or other kind of research experiment noise or artifacts. And we see very similar beta and gamma activity. So that's a very short preliminary view of the results right now. And before the summer ends, or at least before the quarter ends, I would like to incorporate the behavioral data, as I mentioned earlier. And I also want to continue finding other metrics, such as brain regions and event-related potentials. And I also will implement CNN architecture and finish doing the write-up. And advice for next year. So my advice would be that you need to do something that you really, really want, and really like, because it's completely up to yourself if you want to do it or not. And first, you start planning early, because for me particularly, the IRB took a long time. And before the IRB is submitted, I need to finalize a research proposal, so that even needs more time. So start early, and definitely talk to your mentors and other professors about the project. And lastly, treat this as a class, because personally for me, when things got busy, I tend to not focus on this, which is very wrong. So definitely allocate blocks of time to it so that you can work through it even though your time schedule is busy. Yeah. And one last thing that I didn't get on the slide is basically if you're doing a research, if you're collecting data from humans or other living organisms or non-living organisms, please make sure that your data is very well structured and you know what is in your data and how you're naming it, how you're organizing them is very important. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much.
What did the participants do when they were resting?
Oh, they just rested. They looked at a fixation point for 2 minutes on the screen.
Because that might be concentrating as well, look at a point.
Yeah, I realized that that is an issue, and however, I don't, I think that's the protocol or the standard for EEG research, so I just went along with it. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
You also said your convolutional neural network, you're going to use memory for that. Can you explain what that means and why?
Yeah, so I'm actually not very familiar with that, but I've taken a few courses in the CS and EC department. So right now I'm doing the CNN, which basically is convolutional neural network, and it's basically you're using a process called convolution to go through data so that you can basically classify if a data is, for example, a 0 or a 1. And for LSTM, I've used a little bit of it. I unfortunately cannot explain it in very much detail here, but I've seen that it can perform better than pure CNN alone, so I'm going to try that.